Hi, it's Emma. Let's get started on making this DIY scrunchie. So here are all the supplies you'll need to get started. We have some fabric scraps over here. Here's my little trusted pin cushion with all the pins we'll need. Some extra thread. We have my measuring tape. This one's actually a vintage Good Housekeeping one. And then we have elastic. I recommend using 1/4 inch thick elastic. That's about the right width where it'll still feel supportive and able to hold your hair up without being too thick and wide and uncomfortable on your wrist. Then we have this little Cricut iron, and that's gonna be really great if your fabric is wrinkly. You're able to smooth it out really easily, and that will get you better results when you're cutting the fabric to the right size. Speaking of cutting, we got the fabric scissors. We're only gonna use these on fabric to keep them nice and sharp. These are going to be important when you cut the fabric originally. You can use regular scissors you have in your house, but fabric scissors will cut fabric way nicer. And then it'll be easier to measure on the fabric if you have a pencil or a pen, or even just fabric chalk too, that would also be great. Here we have a Brothers sewing machine. Any sewing machine you have at home should work. You don't really need anything fancy. This is a smaller model and it works perfectly for this project. The fabric should be about 25 inches long, and then you want it to be about 4 inches wide. These measurements can totally be adjusted depending on how thick you want your scrunchie to be. Then you're gonna wanna cut your elastic and you're gonna wanna measure that out. You can actually try wrapping it around your wrist to determine what feels like a good length for you and for your hair. Typically, we recommend between 6 and 8 inches. If you have thicker hair, I would go a little bit longer. When you sew, seam allowances and exact measurements are really important for fit on the body. But for a scrunchie, if everything's a little bit off or a little bit, if you kind of guesstimate the measurements, that's totally fine. Once you're ready to pin your elastic to your fabric, you're first gonna wanna identify the right side and the wrong side of the fabric. So this fabric is really easy to do that. This shiny surface, that's gonna be the outside. That's the nice side that we wanna be visible on our scrunchie. And then this side is the rough side. That's gonna be the back side of the fabric. So we're gonna pin the elastic to the wrong side of the fabric, and we wanna do it about halfway in the middle here. So no need to measure, be fancy. We can just fold in half, put our thumb where the halfway point is, and then pin our elastic right there. Right like that. And then we're gonna do the same thing to the other side and pin it again to the wrong side on the other side. All right, and now that it's pinned, we're all ready to sew on the machine. So for this tutorial, all of our stitches, we're gonna be using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Personally, when I sew, I just find a 1/2 inch seam allowance is easy for math. Not the best at math, so it just makes all the calculations a lot easier. And then we're gonna do the other side. One nice trick on sewing machines like this is they have speed settings. So if it ever is feeling a little bit hard to manage or a little hard to sew, it's going too fast, you can actually adjust the speed of the stitching, and it should look just like that on the wrong side of the fabric. Then we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna look at the right side of the fabric. And so what we're gonna do is this is when we're gonna start creating our tube. We're gonna actually fold right sides together. So this is the right side, and then we go like this, right sides together. And just to make it easier, we're gonna pin straight along, and that way when we sew, it'll come out nice and clean and we're not gonna have any mistakes. Okay, now that it's all pinned, we're just gonna go right back to our sewing machine. Some people sew over their pins, but you actually really shouldn't. It can be risky if you do, because they can actually break, and that can pose a risk to the sewer. You don't wanna get a pin in your eye for sure. And when you're sewing the tube, make sure that you don't sew on the elastic or anything else. You wanna keep it nice and flat, so you're just sewing these two pieces of fabric together. So as you sew, just take your pins out as you go, making sure you don't sew over any pins by accident. So now you're gonna be left with this big tube, and you're gonna have the elastic still sewn onto the wrong sides. And the next step is going to be to actually twist this whole tube inside out, so the elastic is going to be on the inside of the tube. This can actually be one of the most challenging parts of sewing a scrunchie, and it actually doesn't involve any sewing at all. So it'll take a minute to twist. A trick that I really like to use is to actually put a safety pin. This is totally optional. You can do it yourself by hand, but it tends to make it a bit easier. If you pin a safety pin to one side of the fabric, you can actually use it as a guide of in the end turning inside out. So just gonna then run the safety pin through the whole tube. All right, so then you're gonna pull the safety pin out on the other side and then pull it through. You see, we're gonna start the process of really getting it going inside out. So you don't want to pull too hard here because you don't want to rip the seam you just sewed or anything like that, or create any damages or rips in the fabric. So take your time, don't rush it, but it always takes a little bit of a second. The most annoying part of making it is literally just twisting it inside out. So now we have it looking more like a scrunchie. And so for the next step, what you're going to want to do is locate those two elastic ends where they're sewn in and put our trusted safety pin off to the side. Next, we're going to locate our two elastic ends right here. So here's one end, and then the other side. Here's the other one. So you can grab both of these ends. And our next step is going to be to stitch them together to close up our scrunchie. You want to make sure they're not twisted at all, so just feel through this like little scrunchie tube that the elastic is going to lay flat. All right. You want to locate those two elastic ends from when you first sewed your first stitch and putting those in place. As you can see right here, and we're going to put those two ends together, making sure that we're only sewing that side of the tube. Leave this side of the tube free hanging. We're going to be stitching that in our last step. So once you have the two elastics right next to each other like this, we're going to pin them in place. There we go. So just like that. So this stitch is going to be one of the more challenging sewing parts of this project. We're going to want to stitch straight across right here, but only on the parts that have the elastic attached. We want to leave this other side of the tube freestanding, and we're going to finish that with the stitch at the end. You want to make sure you do a 1/2 inch seam allowance or whatever the seam allowance you did earlier for sewing the elastic in place. That way that stitch won't show on the outside. All right, here you go. So as you can see, this is a totally functioning scrunchie. You can wear it right now, but we're gonna clean up this outer edge, just make it look nice and clean. The way we're gonna do that is we're gonna fold in the raw edges of the fabric into the tube, and then we're just gonna stitch straight across. We're gonna tuck them in here, and then we're gonna stitch right along that edge. And keep going. A slower speed will definitely make this easier. There's no need to rush this step. We're gonna clean it up a little bit as we have these long threads hanging off of it. And then here is your scrunchie. Your final seam, what I like to do is I like to just tuck it in a little bit like this, and then it's actually just totally hidden. Can't even tell that it's there, and it looks super cute and nice. It's super stretchy. Wear it around your wrist. You can put it in your hair and it'll look great, and it'll be super soft, easy to use. I think they look cute when you stack multiple like this on your wrist. And there you go. You have it. It's an easy project to do at home. It makes a great stocking stuffer or gift for a friend. And it's a great way to reuse fabric scraps you have lying around the house. And you can even match it to other clothes you have in your closet.